Hello, welcome to the Age of Empires 4 stress test. This is going to be a first impressions. Going to go over things relatively quickly if we can. We have multiplayer available. If you go into a custom game though and create your own one, you can just basically play against the AI. Otherwise it's co-op versus AI. Or you do 1 versus 1 to 2v2, 3v3, 4v4. So you even get 4 versus 4 RT potentially. Whew. Can you imagine 4 versus 4 RT? With no town portals? That would be a problem. There's daily quests, so I guess that's an incentive to play the game on a daily basis. There's this thing called masteries here. I wonder if that's like achievements. And then over here you got community tab. So, you know, you might see yourself or whatever on YouTube. Or your latest Twitter post, as exciting as that might be. There's 4 races currently playable. You can get some information though as to how they play. What's good for them, what's bad, and their technology tree. Be it the English, the Chinese, the Holy Roman Empire, or the Abbasid dynasty. So I actually haven't played this game properly yet, other than for like a minute in a multiplayer. So I think what we'll start off with is the intro tutorial. This technical stress test is going to be there the whole time. I'm going to have to play with the volume because it gets really loud. There's a lot of ding-dings going on. And then after that, I might do a 1 versus 1 against Fred if he's actually on. Oh, you want to do it versus AI? Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. We can play against AI as well. Hardest AI is pretty difficult. So I have a little disclaimer is I've played Age of Empires since I was a kid. Age of Empires 1 was one of my very first RTS games that I really got stuck into crazily, and I love that game. Age of Empires 2 was fantastic, obviously, just a step up on Age of Empires 1 in every way, and I've played a good chunk of that. So I am familiar with the game. From what I can tell, this seems to be a blend of like Age of Empire, all of them almost. Age of Mythology 1, 2, and 3. But it does seem to be quite close to Age of Empires 2.
A few hardy refugees faced the prospect of starting again. They would found a new village deep in the countryside.
Alright. So new objective, establish your economy. You start the game
with a new settlement established.
Few of these.
The first priority was locating a reliable food source.
Alrighty.
The simplest source was gathering from nature.
So I assume you want me to gather some berries. Yeah, the strange thing is I actually didn't like Age of Mythology, rather the way it played. But this was way back when I was like, you know, 15, 16 years old or whatever it is. So if I played it again now, maybe I might enjoy it more. Because obviously I love, you know, Greek mythology, Norse mythology, all that kind of stuff. It's super cool. Like, it's fascinating. And it's makes for great stories. Gather 50 additional food. So we need another 20. Okay. So this is about as much as you can zoom in and zoom out. If you hold Alt, you can spin the camera angle around. Like Warcraft 3, I think you can like control group units by left control 1. So if I click on that and then type 1, it'll pull these units up. So control groups and that, they're all good.
With a healthy supply of food, the village could start to grow. To do so, it would need more hands to share the work.
You're not wrong. How's the volume, guys? Is it crazy loud or is it okay? So I'm just building villages. I think the UI is a little bit flat in a way. It's kind of neat and simplistic, which I don't mind too much, but I think you could actually have like pictures of faces to make it more identifiable. I feel like it doesn't stand out very much here. I guess you just got to get used to seeing this in the bottom left here, but I felt if I saw a face of a villager or something, I'd be more... I guess obviously it takes getting used to, but still. So you have an option to rally and delete the building itself, which we definitely don't want to do, otherwise we'll probably fail the actual campaign. Produce 5 additional villages. 1 more to go. So if you click on, you can see their stats if you hover over. The movement speed is really nice. It shows you their movement speed. That's really cool. And their attacks. So there's a lot of information there.
Could now turn to the growing village's needs. First, they would build a mill near their food source, so villagers could drop off gathered berries more easily.
So build a mill, eh? Okay, so we go with this guy and right click on a okay, we know that one. So build this mill next to these two. Can you use speed build? So that's going up. If I right clicked with that, they are building on it. They definitely went up quicker. I assume there's some sort of diminishing returns to that. I'm going to need a farm, aren't I? I'm capped on the food.
The growing village would need wood to build with.
But first priority is apparently lumber. So we got a mill here. Where's the lumber? Oh, I guess we just chop the trees then. Let's chop the trees. 5 of those. So it says all 5. So you can fairly clearly see that you got 5 units toggled. That's nice. The mill, it tells you it's armor as well. Farms within influence have plus 15 harvest rates. So is the influence the orange? This might be a racial thing that the English have. So if I built a farm in here, the gathering rate on the mill is going to go up by 15%, which is pretty good. But then again,
now had a steady supply of lumber. To make wood collection easier, villagers could erect a lumber camp near the forest.
Yes, that's what I would have liked to have done. I was going to say, if you build a farm here, there's not much space for the... I suppose you build like 1 or 2 farms, and then the rest would be, you know... I call them farms because in Warcraft 3 they're farms, but I mean, build a house or 2, and then you can get farms around.
Thanks to the camp, villagers no longer needed to travel as far to drop off lumber. The village now required additional houses to support its growing population.
I'm reading into it wrong. Okay, what do you want now? To build houses, select a villager, left click on the house icon, and then click on the ground to start building. Okay. So let's do that. Let's do this. And then, I don't know if you really want to build it in there or not. Out of curiosity. Ping. You can ping the map. Defend. Attack. That's to your allies. Okay. So we need to build 3 houses. Worker. Reset the camera. So if you did something funky with the camera, there's a quick button to reset it. At least the alt angle. And then that's just a simplistic version of doing this.
With additional housing in place, even more villagers could join the workforce. But a populous village would soon exhaust the natural food sources. To grow, the community needed dedicated farms.
3 farms, you say? Let's get 3 villagers. And then do this. I don't know if there's a hotkey for these. I don't see what the hotkey is. Ah, there you go. So if I press Q, then it brings these up. So A. So A. And then they all just do it. If I press A again, it doesn't come up. Because A is here. So you have to do Q and then A. Okay. QA. So Q activates their build, essentially. I don't know if you can have more than 1 person on the farm.
Woodsmen and farmers now kept the village well supplied.
Maybe you can.
Further growth required knowing the countryside
It's a fun sound.
and finding more resources. For that, communities employed scouts.
They sure did. Okay, so there's a scout. You get it from your main base. I think I'll just build another farm. I mean, a house or 2. You can do shift, and it will build the next one afterwards, by the looks of it.
Able to move quickly and see great distances, scouts were key to discovering new resources. The most important thing for a scout to locate was a ready source of gold.
Gold! Is there a follow option? Because in Warcraft 3, if you hold the mouse button on like the icon or something, it will basically hover around the creature. I'm pressing spacebar, that doesn't do it. If I hold down 2, that just selects the unit.
To prevent having to haul ore large distances, expanding communities would establish a mining camp near the source of gold.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
It looks pretty fun though so far. I It has this almost blurry-ish kind of look. You know when you're looking into the distance and there's like the heat waves? It feels like it's got that, and I'm not sure if that's a deliberate atmospheric design choice or just because the engine doesn't work as well. Because personally, I'd just rather it be crystal clear. But you can sort of see this fog. Like the fog is kind of okay because that's part of it, but there's this almost like blur on the camera. Let's take the main base. So how do we advance?
The signpost of this growth would be the construction of a large landmark.
Oh, I see. So what large landmark do we have available to build then? Abbey of Kings. Heals all nearby out of combat units. Okay. So if you have a big battle, you want to return to that. Got a healthy amount of food, gold. Food, lumber, gold, and stone there. Oh, you can actually see how much you're making per minute. I think the stats are quite good. Like, it's informative. So you've got a good idea as to how well you're performing. So you can use that as knowledge going into the next game, thinking, okay, last time I had about 200 wood per, minute or whatever it is, and that was going well for me. You get little ZZZs if the villager's not doing anything. Otherwise, there is an idle button, I think. Ah? There you go. So it's the dot. And that's one way to do it. I might get some more farms. I'm going to see if they do... They still do this thing they did in Age of Empires 2, where if you build multiples, like QA, 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 they don't sort of split off into their own one. They still try to build them all. They kind of helped each other and then they do it, so that's okay. It's a good compromise. And if I take this one and right-click there, that should finish building that. Landmark is almost finished. Now we can advance.
With the landmark in place, the once sleepy village announced itself as a thriving feudal township. The townsfolk had been driven from their homes before, however. This time, they would defend themselves.
Good for them. So I've got to learn to use spearmen.
The first step would be constructing a barracks for infantry.
Gonna get more villagers. I'm gonna get some houses. So it's pretty straightforward and easy to play at the moment, which is a positive. There's nothing too funky as far as I can tell. It feels pretty much like Age of Empires 2 in that same regard, that, you can have a good go at it and not get too overwhelmed.
Once it had a barracks, the town could establish a standing force of soldiers. Simple infantrymen armed with spears were a common choice for these militias.
60 food, 20 lumber, and the time there, 7 seconds. Infantry is best used against mounted units. Anti-cavalry specialist, susceptible to light ranged attacks, and weak against armoured infantry. It feels quite nice to play something, that I haven't played before, but I have at the same time. Does that make sense? Like, there's a familiarity to this, but there's obviously that new shine that it has. Ah, okay, so depending on which structure you're on. So if you go in the town hall, it tells you the villages that are being built and that. So I wasn't sure if this could maybe show you everything that's being built. Like, say for example, all of these showed up over here. All the workers showed up on the bottom column, and then all the infantry over here, and then all the archers here. So if you're building multiple different types of units, you can sort of see in the bottom left what's being made as you go, instead of having to click on the building to see what's being made from it. I think that would be a nice quality of life. It's just having that as a fundamental, being able to see those being built without actually even clicking on it. So, produce 10 spearmen. We've almost got that.
The
That's as much
town
as I
now
can
had
see
a
now.
militia and could look to reclaim the lands lost to invasion.
Looks like we're going
The
to war.
invaders had blocked the road north with a stout palisade. Although spears were of little use against these walls, the militia could burn down the obstacle with torches.
Torches? Who's got torches?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Is it worth to buy Warcraft 3 Reforged, or is it still bad? I mean, if you want to play Warcraft 3, then you have to kind of get Reforged. That's just the way it is. That's kind of cool that they swap over to a different type of weapon. Makes them ranged in a way. Temporarily.
With the road open, the militia could now reclaim their lands in the north.
I don't think you can follow units. For example, if I wanted my scout to follow these guys, if I right-click
the
this
spearmen
dude,
had to deal with a lone sentry.
I think the scout doesn't. Nah. The cursor, I don't know, it didn't seem to... Didn't change its icon look, other than a red
Advancing aggressively, the militia eliminated
icon
the
below.
enemy sentry. The invaders had a small cavalry camp guarding the road, but the militia was ready to attack.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, that's better. Sword. That makes it more... It seems a bit over the top how big that sword is, but, you know. Too late to micro, yeah. So you can't look at the individual units to micro them. So you see that low health one, for example, you'd have to click on it individually to pull them out. Because there's no icons at the bottom here to show you the units that you have grouped up.
Allowing the militia to win the day. All that remained was to destroy the invaders' stables.
Seems a bit rude. There's a horse still in there. He doesn't seem to care though. He's just like, this is fine. I've got used to this.
The invaders' cavalry post was destroyed, but other enemy positions awaited further up the road. Hostile archers defended the next camp, which would put spearmen at a disadvantage.
Attack the archeries. Where's the
The
archeries?
township needed cavalry of its own to deal with this, and so would need to build stables. To deploy that cavalry quickly, the town needed to build their stables near the front lines.
Alright, I'm sending a whole ton of villagers over. Is there any speed run ability for them to
Friendly
run,
villagers came out
sprint?
of hiding and joined the effort.
Unit is not currently standing ground. Click in order to do so. Oh, feed to stand ground. Interesting. Okay, so that's like whole position. What do you guys think so far? I think it plays very smoothly. And it has a really nice sort of atmospheric vibe to it. But like I say, I would sacrifice some of that atmosphere for a clearer vision and remove some of the blurriness. I think what I liked about the trailers was how clear the units looked, at least. I mean, aside from the fog and the sort of smudge, the 20% sort of translucent. You know when you sort of had to trace a cartoon using tracing paper? It's kind of like the tracing paper's being put on top of my monitor. Do you know what I mean?
Each timber fails. Yarway Iawa Hestes commende.
But otherwise, you can tell these are spearmen quite obviously. It's got a very cartoony kind of look.
With stables in place, the town could field horsemen of its own.
So all, Q. Oh, you tab through here, so you highlight. So I've hotkeyed both of this barracks and the stable, and it's all Q. If you do Q on this, I think that's just going to spam on both of them. Let's see if the horses gets improved. Don't know. Maybe it just goes onto the primary building, which is the barracks. We can cancel all of those. I like that.
Yes, sir. Understood.
So I watched a bit of Grubby playing this, and it has a very sort of atmospheric. Like I'm gonna keep using that word because it does. The way the units shout their lines and they sort of like yell to one another as they're building and all this kind of stuff. The construction sounds. I think you're gonna have a really good time playing the campaign on this. I think the multiplayer is gonna determine the real longevity of the game, though. And that's where I think a lot of people are conflicted. Right now, I would not say I'm I'm much of an expert in terms of Age of Empires, so I don't think I have any right to sort of speak about whether this would be successful or not, because I think true Age of Empire players, or Age of Empire 2 players, would probably know a lot better than I. If you double click, it pulls up all the units, which is nice. A quick double click and you've got everything. Or you can drag.
The town now had a rapid
And you shift to remove a unit, like in Warcraft 3.
Such as archers.
Eliminate the enemy archers. We're going to run them down with our horses. Alrighty. Let's change the camera. Swing it round. So we can watch as we go over the bridge. It's not like people on online games are toxic, so it should be good. Absolutely. No one's toxic online. Only those single player people are very toxic. Attack? Well, that's a pretty good surround. It's like a ghoul surround. You run ahead of them and then surround.
The cavalry eliminated the enemy archers and moved on to destroying the archery range itself.
So does every unit, including villagers, have torches as a way to siege buildings? You no longer just a sort of attack by jabbing your spear at them.
Were destroyed. A final enemy emplacement remained. One fortified with
I thought that might be like a
and defended
research
by
or something.
spearmen.
Equip your villagers with torches for when they want to siege buildings, that sort of
To
thing,
deal
or
with
your
this
military
target,
units.
the town would need longbowmen. First, they needed to build archery ranges in the area regained from the invaders.
Alrighty. Shall we bring our idols? So if I do shift... Wait, let's...
Once more, friendly villagers arrived to help.
Oh, that's nice. Well, let's get building, shall we?
Yes, sir. West Suhala.
It's quite good in the sense that it's, you know, it's relatively well paced, a little slow, but it is teaching you not only how to build, but also why you're building what you're building, because you're building horses to overcome the archers, that kind of thing. Free? Wow, you want to go free. So you got to do Q and then... what's the hotkey here? Wait. There? Interesting. Why does that not have a hotkey? Why is that not over here? Anyway, I guess that might just be part of the tutorial thing. It sounded Swedish for a moment there. It's like the Swedish chef from the Muppets.
With several archery ranges in place, the town could add longbowmen to its forces.
Hold W. So, because it's a tier 2 building, is it? Oh, okay. So W... Oh, okay, so Q... Wait, cancel. Q shows these ones. S W shows these ones, ESC. But if you do Q and then change your mind to go straight to W, it won't. It will just build one of these, obviously, because W is one of the hotkeys. So you've got to sort of be kind of aware of how you're fat fingering a little bit. So I think I could make a lot of mistakes. How's our housing? Our population looks way close.
Yes, sir. Ik will do it. It's timber theos. Yes, sir. West to Hala.
Word stigeth on way. Cometh honor. Are you ready, Yahweh? On moon ferreth.
You can just put all of them in the set. Wait, 1.2? Ah, 1 and 2. So it shows you that it's part of group 1 and 2. Interesting. I think they've got quite a few things right. You guys might be more observant than I, though, in terms of working out what they've got wrong. But I'm noticing some things that are quite good. Like, it's pretty familiar with Warcraft 3 in terms of at least hotkey and shift building, that kind of stuff. Which is nice. And then if I wanted to remove this horse, hold down left shift, left click, re-hotkey group, and you can see the ones disappeared. So that's just like Warcraft 3. That's what I'm used to. Can you toggle formation? If not, you might be forced with a slow-moving army if you group them all together. I'm not sure there's a button to toggle formation. Do you think the camera angle should be like more top-down then? Like, you know, rather than so isometric. It's almost like third-person style. Not quite, obviously, but... I think I'm going to get some more QW and then QA. No, I'm used to building A for my farms. So Q... What is that? Ah. Q... Oh, it was QA. Okay.
A strong force of archers could eliminate enemy spearmen at a distance, so long as they took the proper position.
I see. So you want the high ground, do you? So if I grabbed my archer group and then hotkeyed that to 2, nah. That puts them all in one. So if I hold down left control and left click, that only selects the archers, so those go number 2. And then I shift left click them out of that group, and that's number 1. And then I highlight all of them as number 3. So 3, this is kind of how I do things in Warcraft 3. So 3 is like all of your units. 1 is like, say for example, your melee, and 2 is your ranged. So the way this should work is my melee should stand here, my archers should go on the high ground.
Poised on a cliff top, the longbowman would be protected from an infantry charge.
It's got a cool look to it, I like it. I just wish it was clearer. I don't know if that's an option later on that we might get available.
Last of the invaders fell to the resurgent
Remove all this
Noldor
silly fog, like with
population.
mods, for
Now
example.
that their lands were free of enemies, the town could take the next step in its growth and become a powerful medieval city.
Advance to the castle age, you say? Now where's
Here
my
too,
option to do that?
the erection of a great landmark would be the signpost of this growth.
I see. Hardened spearman. What have we got? So you press T when it's available to advance, and then you choose what you're going to build. Acts as a keep with the behaviors. That'll do. Just build that there, that's fine. Let's finish this quickly. We've got 5,700 gold, so I think we're good on gold. So you get... it's like, you know, Cossacks and stuff like that, where I think it's more about the vibe, the feeling of the moment of all the units, rather than sort of, say, the min-max micro of it. So I wonder if the micro in this game, if that's going to pay off or
Where
not.
a few lowly refugees had founded a small village, now rose a mighty city. From there would grow an empire.
You know, I only just noticed the technical stress test again when you typed it in chat. I didn't... After a while, you actually don't even see that. As soon as you typed technical stress test, that was suddenly really obvious to me when I looked at the screen. Okay, so... Intro was very good. Slow, but you get there. The gameplay itself is pretty slow. So, I mean, it's pretty enjoyable. Like, again, this is going to have to be decided by much better players than I as to how well the multiplayer is going to hold up to become, you know, a game that people are going to want to watch. But I think I don't really have any complaints. I don't know if that's, you know, if I should have complaints other than like you know, the blurriness of it. But otherwise, I feel like it would be quite fun to play at least the campaign.